Another morning right here, and a good one on 92.1 Vision FM. Good to have you on The Conduit this morning. And The Conduit is a program that focuses on illicit financial flows, and is sponsored by Center for Democracy and Development in support with Trust Africa. And it's good to have you this morning. On The Conduit today, we'll be interrogating issues around the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. How illicit activities actually manifest within Nigeria, within the economy, which in turn hinders meaningful progress towards achieving Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) in Nigeria. My name is Omleha Ode, and according to the new joint report released by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) and the African Development Bank on illicit financial flows, West African sub-region loses $50 billion yearly due to IFFs. And this is more than what the continent has received in development aid. Out of this, Nigeria accounted for 79% of the entire share of IFFs from West Africa. And these illicit activities hinder the Nigerian economy and development in a vicious circle that aggravates poverty and insecurity, which in turn enriches criminal networks. And in spite of the fact that Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa, IFF's activities has deprived the country of resources that could be used to finance essential public services, ranging from security and justice to basic social services such as health, education, thus weakening the financial system and economic potential of the country. And this negative impact of IFFs actually drains foreign reserves, it heightens inflation, reduces tax collection, cancels investments, undermines free trade. Basically, IFFs impede resources that could otherwise be used for poverty alleviation and economic growth, and it tends to restrict the capacity and ability of the country to mobilize domestic resources and access foreign capital necessary to finance economic growth and development. And to that, we are discussing this morning the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. And as resource person in the studio, we have Mr. Joseph Amenahowon. He is the Program Coordinator, Economic Governance, Open Society Initiative for West Africa, OSIWA. It's good to have you in the studio this morning. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
Okay, we'll just get on with the discussion. In what ways would you say illicit activities interact with Nigeria economy?
Let's be clear first about to have a better understanding of what this means. As you know, that trade is a very vital component of the existence of any country, and trade also attracts a whole lot of people. There are licit and illicit dimensions to it, and the argument continues to be raised that illicit activities around trade have been very, very detrimental to development in the country, and this is related to the fact that illicit trade deprives the country of needed revenue and resources. So ultimately, if you look at it from that dimension, you realize that this is a huge issue that needs to be dealt with. Recently, the Natural Resource Charter did release a report on the impact of one of the dimensions of illicit financial flows, which is crude oil theft on the Nigerian economy, and the loss is rated to be in trillions of naira. So if you look at that and imagine what that would have done to the Nigerian economy, you get a clearer picture of how this is working out.
Okay, that's actually interesting. Looking at the loss amounting to over trillions of naira, but how would you say it's actually impeding meaningful development?
Well, you know that ordinarily, revenues from trade or income from trade ought to go into government coffers. And if you don't have this going into government coffers, you're talking about leakages at the end. So ultimately, the country is not benefiting from the quantum of resources and revenue that it should derive from trade engagement. So that's a loss for the country. And once you lose that amount of money, it means you don't have sufficient funds to deal with government's responsibility, and you have to resort to greatly borrowing and all that, which is not the ideal way to go.
Okay, but let's look at the ways these activities actually flourish. What networks and drivers would you say are channels through which these activities get to flourish?
It's a mix of actors. You have individuals who are hell-bent, so to say, on benefiting from the system. But you also have multinational corporations who, through tax avoidance, through misinvoicing, for instance, find a way to deprive the country of needed resources. So you have those who are doing it in plain sight and using all sorts of tactics to ensure that they don't pay actual remittance to the country. Then you have those who are involved in illegal businesses, like those involved in crude oil theft, for instance, collusion with other actors. They ensure that this stolen crude oil is never in any way captured by the Nigerian economy.
Then what happens to those that are maybe into drug trafficking, into other, because I know there are a whole lot of economic channels through which this activities flourish.
You're right. What we should highlight again is that there are different illegal activities that impact on the Nigerian economy. One of them you mentioned, the trade in counterfeit drugs, for instance, the trade in small arms and ammunition, the trade in human organs, for instance. Although that is not very rampant here in Nigeria, but it's also one angle.
How about mineral resources?
Definitely illegal mining of resources. For instance, what we just highlighted with regard to crude oil theft. Then that illegal mining of resources is also an angle to look at. So you have these different avenues whereby individuals, organized groups do profit from this. But the bottom line in all this is the question of the challenges with regards to how you manage the borders, for instance, of the country. How regulatory authorities manage all these avenues. How do you ensure, for instance, that oil pipelines are not frequently vandalized? How do you ensure that joint task force teams that are mandated to provide surveillance security for those places are not compromised? So we're talking about a whole lot of regulatory enforcement here. So there needs to be much more efforts towards dealing with those loopholes.
And I think other than pushing forward, let's just go a bit at these efforts that need to be done. These underlying development leakages, which actually result in illicit financial flows, how do they get to be identified and then mitigated?
It's a whole lot. The argument has been raised that there needs to be massive international cooperation. For instance, the major thing has been the automatic exchange of information, because you're looking at individuals who are trying to circumvent the normal channels, but they still have to keep their money in the global international financial system, and in doing this, they look for ways to cut corners. But you need massive cross-border exchange of information to let people know, countries know how these flows are going. And once you have that automatic exchange of information, countries can track clearly how flows of income are going out of their countries and the destination countries. Because what you're looking at is finding out exactly the source, for instance, if it's coming from Nigeria, the transit countries, for instance, and ultimately the destination. But we all know clearly that a number of the destinations are actually in Europe and America. And the argument has always been that there needs to be international cooperation to ensure that those countries also begin to expose and provide information with regards to these flows.
How would you actually rate these international corporations? Because they've actually been to an extent. There's been organization, TI has brought their different reports. There's been different organizations working. I think the OECD too. They've even organized activities, and there are different collaborations. They get to reach an agreement. How would you rate that international cooperation so far?
It's fair to say that if you look at, it's fair to say that the European Union, for instance, is putting a lot of pressure on its country to do better with regards to this. For instance, the issue of beneficial ownership, the issue of having public registers of companies. Countries like United Kingdom and Denmark, for instance, have moved pretty fast with regards to that. They now have public registers for certain corporations. At least you get to know the owners of these companies. You get to know the individuals who work in those companies. So you can say that there is some appreciation of the need to begin to expose this, and some countries are buying onto that. But it's not as if it's widespread yet, but there are countries who are making efforts to ensure that they have these registers put in place. And if you look at new accountability frameworks that countries have signed on to, like the Open Government Partnership, for instance, one of the key things around that is the need to have these beneficial ownership registers in countries. Nigeria is also looking at the possibility of doing this, so we can know exactly who owns which companies and all that, so that ultimately you can track exactly how inflows or outflows are going.
Okay, but I'm coming back to Nigeria. There's the thing of companies getting to, that's the beneficial ownership, and then the open governance also. I know there was a challenge with MDAs getting to reveal information based on revealing information based on the FOI.
We still have challenges with regards to that. But it's fair also to say that a number of MDAs are beginning to proactively release information. So you find, for instance, the Ministry of Finance constantly putting out information with regards to budget allocations to different areas of government. But we're talking about very, very detailed and specific information, and there needs to be that effort to improve in that area.
Okay, let's just hope an improvement is actually done in that regard. It's still the Conduit right here on 92.1 Vision FM, and we will take a break, and once we come back, phone lines will be open for you to call in and make your contribution as we look at the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. We'll be right back.
They say Nigeria is too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. Why has the country stagnated on the path towards development? Listen to The Conduit on Vision FM 92.1 Abuja every Thursday at 9 a.m. as we explore issues around illicit financial flows in Nigeria, government's regulatory and policy frameworks, and offer practical recommendations to addressing the economic problem. The Conduit is powered by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from Trust Africa.
It's good to know you're still listening to the Conduit right here, 92.1 Vision FM. And we're still having the studio Joseph Amenawa. He is the program coordinator, Economic Governance Open Society Initiative for West Africa, that is OSIWA. And we happen to be looking at the topic this morning, the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. It turns out to be very evident because, like he has said, if the finance is not available, then the basic infrastructure of the country still seems to have in fact, there's still a negative impact. That's just basic. The phone numbers are open right now, and you can call in and make your contribution this morning to what we're discussing. And the numbers are 080-911-27-352 or 080-25-140627. Those are the numbers for you to call. The numbers again, 080-911-27-352 or 080-25-140627. Those are the numbers for you to call in and be part of the program as we discuss the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. Okay, back to our resource person in the studio. Would you actually say illicit activities in the country the continue due to lack of political will?
To categorically say that, initially I mentioned the challenge with regards to regulatory authorities and enforcement. So a great deal has to be done with regards to actually improving regulation and the question of enforcement. Take the classic example of the vandalization of pipelines, for instance, and the alleged collusion of meeting officials with pipeline vendors and oil thieves. That needs to be further interrogated if indeed that is what is happening, and the individuals who are responsible for this to be brought to book. Because if you have a massive hole in regards to your oil revenue, it's something that the country must deal with decisively.
But do you think Nigeria needs more gatekeepers to effectively combat illicit movement within the country?
Certainly, we need to improve.
What kind of gatekeepers do you think?
Well, as you know, there are mandatory or obligated institutions to deal with it. And one of the big institutions to deal with it is the customs. And you know clearly too that we've had challenges in managing our borders. So if we do want to find a way to deal with these issues, we also have to find a way to ensure that our borders are properly manned, and we can ensure that people do not illegally bring stuff into the country or illegally take things out. We also need to improve on our financial institutions, because there is the argument and allegations of active collusion of financial institutions in this issue. So we need to find a way to put the spotlight on them and ensure that greater scrutiny of the activity is done.
Okay, last week we actually had an economic analyst, and he was saying something about an economist, someone that actually understands finance, to be part of the fight against corruption. What do you think about that?
It's not as if we don't have people with those expertise involved in the fight against corruption.
Maybe the anti-graft agencies or something. Sorry to cut you.
No, the way we should understand that fighting corruption is not localized with a specific institution. The country has a national anti-corruption strategy, which expands and involves a number of other institutions. These institutions are expected to bring their different level of expertise to support the fight against corruption. It's not localized particularly in a given institution, but we need to encourage our institutions to share information and to work much more closely together.
The phone lines are still open for you to call in and make a contribution. The economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. To what extent is it actually affecting us as Nigerians? When we talk about illicit trade, the outflow of resources, the outflow of our finances, and its impact. What's the impact right here in the economy of this country? And the numbers are still 080-91127-352 or 080-25-140627. The economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. Hello? Okay, call us up and call us back, and let's know what your input is as regards what we are discussing this morning. But in your view, Mr. Joseph, in your view, what's the government doing to protect the Nigerian economy from the threat of IFS?
Like I said, financial regulation, for instance, is one area that the government is working on to improve. And if you look at that in terms of, in that regard, you find, for instance, the stringent rules around the establishment of the TSA, for instance. That, for instance, enables MDAs to not necessarily have ways they can take out revenues that are expected to come to the government. So the TSA, for instance, is one major way one can say that has curtailed at least domestic leakages of funds. But in terms of international outflows, the government also, by signing on to relevant international agreements, is also working with other countries to ensure that we can curtail this. If you delve a bit into the area of asset recovery, for instance, all this is related. These multilateral agreements with other countries is enabling the government to ensure that we can at least to a great extent begin to look at the prospect of recovering stolen wealth and all that.
Okay, and still looking at looted funds and all of that, the Panama Papers that were released, the Paradise Papers, not much seemed to have been done about that information.
That's why we've always argued that there needs to be massive international cooperation to unpack the Panama Papers, to actually dig deep into the report and actually begin to look at prosecution, the possibilities of prosecution. And you find that oftentimes it appears that prosecutions that begin outside our own jurisdiction oftentimes lead to useful results. It now behooves on our own entities here responsible for fighting corruption to begin to look at closely at those issues. But there's also the question, the challenge around capacity. What is the capacity of our institutions to actually delve and deal with these issues? And that's why the argument has always been also we need certain levels of international support and cooperation to unearth some of these findings of this report, so we can actually have clear possibilities of prosecuting individuals that have been identified that have benefited from some of these, some of the key things that the report are highlighted.
But do you see the government actually doing all of this? Do you see it like we're actually working with these international organizations? I understand the CSOs are trying to an extent, but will you say the government is actually working it out to be able to bring these perpetrators or these accused people to...
It's progressive. And if you look at the work of the Presidential Committee on Anti-Corruption, for instance, by the time you get to read some of the work they've done, some of it delves into the high-level international cooperation that is going on to bring about the recovery of stolen wealth and all that. So one can argue that some work is going on, but how fast and how progressive that will yield results is something I would really have to look at.
Permit me to ask you this one also. How can the diversion of legitimate trade flows outcome outside the formal economy be beneficial?
It's a bit difficult to argue in support of that. It's a bit difficult to argue in support of that. What the country really wants to know is to have a full capture of trade within its own jurisdiction in terms of income, outflows, and all that. But you also know that there are firms and businesses who try to subvert this in what they call legal ways. But we need to have them report on all. So we're looking at a situation where firms can transparently and accountably report on all their financial dealings. And that enables government to know exactly what this is about. Like I said before, you know, certain firms find and invest in ways of doing tax avoidance. They do it craftily. But you need intelligent government officials and people working with entities of anti-corruption to be able to clearly distinguish it, so that, for instance, you can know exactly the quantum of resources that are being lost in those, in quote, legal ways of doing business.
Okay, then a look at a CWA and organizations alike. You get to focus on economic government. How would you rate the activities thus far? How would you rate the impact?
Increasingly, we're saying that organizations in Nigeria, civil society groups, are beginning to act and demand for clearer answers from government in regards to how it intends to manage some of these issues. One of the key issues that I know a number of civil society groups are building coalitions around is the question of the recovery of assets. Recovered assets, how do you intend to utilize those recovered assets? So government itself needs to expand the options and opportunities for groups to be involved in decisions around what we do with our recovered assets. But most importantly too, government needs to also expand the opportunities for groups to also be involved in how asset recovery is undertaken. So we know clearly which assets are likely to be covered, and what role civil society groups can play. Civil society groups continue to raise the consciousness of citizens to understand the dimensions today, and most importantly for them, most importantly at community level too, for communities to be able to track and understand that some of these issues in the long term will impact on their own health and well-being. Take for instance the whole question about trading in counterfeit drugs and counterfeit products. Ultimately, we are the ones who get to suffer it. So if you have business, people running businesses that are likely based on counterfeit drugs, counterfeit products, we ultimately suffer it. So communities have a role to play in ensuring that such information is released and shared with.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Oh, okay. Well, call us back and still join the conversation this morning. The economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. The economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. You can still call us back. The numbers are still 080-911-27-352 or 080-25-140627. Those are the numbers, and you can call us and still be part of the conversation this morning. And we'll take a break right here, and once we come back, the Conduit still continues with you. Stay with us.
They say Nigeria is too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. Why has the country stagnated on the path towards development? Listen to The Conduit on Vision FM 92.1 Abuja every Thursday at 9 a.m. as we explore issues around illicit financial flows in Nigeria, government regulatory and policy frameworks, and offer practical recommendations to addressing the economic problem. The Conduit is powered by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from Trust Africa.
Welcome back to the program as we are still discussing the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. The economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. And the phone lines are open for you to call us up and make your contribution this morning. And we still have a resource person in the studio, and he has said a whole lot about citizens engagement also, and that's what I want to even focus on right now. You know, citizens engagement, when we talk about citizens engagement, you guys get to create awareness. That's the CSOs. You get to create awareness for citizens to be able to demand their rights based on the fact that their health is important, education is important, and infrastructure and all of that. But how do you make them, will I say, bold enough to be able to question the government, or be able to question the fact that maybe this thing is budgeted for, this is allocated for, this thing is not yet done?
You know, we run representative democracy, and you find that legislators represent different communities. And one of the ways that people can engage is to directly engage their legislative person. But we also note that there are challenges with regards to that. So you find that citizens now resort to actual doing, for instance, protests to the respective institutions to bring attention to this issue. But most importantly too, citizens also do what you would call outright going to the National Assembly, for instance.
Before you go with that, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
I'm Suleiman Jamata, calling from Gwagwalada. Please send my greeting to our guest.
Okay, I guess.
The topic of discussion is quite impressive. The issue here is the economic policy molders has a lot of assignments in their hand. Just like your guests have said, like this issue of crude oil theft, I can tell you wholeheartedly that 70% of those who attempted to that theft are listeners in this country, are people that have a political high hierarchy. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe that the policy molders has a lot of assignment, and they need to checkmate those people behind this. particular menace. Because if you look at every society, the power of every society based on the economic structure. Because if I could remember, there is a book written by Claude Aki. He said those who are economically privileged tend to be interested in preserving the existing social order. And those who are disadvantaged by social order, particularly in the distribution of wealth, have strong interest in changing the social order. He said with this, the economic trade become a political alignment within society. He said the political structure does not define the role of politics alone, but it also defines the role of cohesion in our society. So the economic policy models has a lot of assignments. The government has a lot of assignments because many prominent people are involved in this school text. Have they been brought to book? The answer is no. We cannot develop economic when there are people behind them weighing the economic down. It's not possible. It is very difficult for you to uplift your economy. If there are some saboteurs within the economy, there's no how your economy can be uplifted. So they need to create a policy to checkmate those people behind, and they should bring them to book, no matter their personality. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Suleiman Jamata, for your contribution. Hello, good morning. Hello, who's on the line? Good morning.
Good morning. This is Nu calling from Gwarimpa.
All right, Nu from Gwarimpa. Please go on with your contribution.
Yeah, please. My first issue is Mr. Adams or Shomole, our great leader, is well, perfectly right. I can't see why a Senate leader should. Thank God he's leaving. We are really happy for his leaving. But truly.
Nu, are you following the conversation this morning?
Yes, I'm on the conversation.
About illicit trade?
I'm on the conversation. Should Saraki remain as Senate President or he got to quit him?
All right, thank you very much, Nu. Nu, we're actually discussing the economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. It's not direct politics, you know. The economic implication of illicit trade in Nigeria. If you actually understand that discussion, then we don't mind. You could call us back and go straight up to what we are discussing this morning.